What if that feeling of being stuck, that mental block you just can't seem to push through, isn't a wall, but a locked door? And what if you're already holding the key? For most of us, that feeling of knowing what you want to do but being completely unable to start isn't about a lack of talent or motivation. It's often our own brains working against us, creating psychological blind spots that hide the solutions right in front of us. These blind spots are like invisible locks on our potential. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 most common psychological blind spots that keep you procrastinating, second-guessing yourself, and feeling overwhelmed. More importantly, I'm going to give you one powerful science-backed technique to finally move past them. This isn't just another motivational speech. It's a practical tool rooted in neuroscience and psychology that you can start using the second this video ends. Let's get started. First up is the most sneaky of the 3 blind spots. I call it the certainty trap. This is the trap of believing you see the world completely objectively when you're actually looking through a lens distorted by your past experiences and beliefs. It's a cognitive bias known as the bias blind spot. We're great at seeing how biases affect other people, but we're terrible at seeing how they affect our own judgment. The irony is, the more objective you think you are, the more likely you are to be trapped by your own assumptions. Think of your brain as a GPS. Its main job is to get you from A to B as efficiently as possible, using the least amount of mental energy. To do that, it relies on old, familiar roots, your established beliefs. If you've always believed that public speaking is terrifying, or I'm not the creative type, your brain treats that as the only road. It won't even show you the other routes that might lead to a better destination, because searching for new paths takes energy, and the brain prefers the well-worn path of what it already knows. These mental shortcuts or heuristics are efficient, but they can lead to huge errors in judgment that we are completely blind to. Here's how this shows up in real life. Have you ever had a big, exciting goal and your very first thought was a list of all the reasons why it's impossible? I can't change careers. I don't have the right degree. I can't start a fitness journey. The gym is too intimidating. I can't learn that new skill. I'm too old for that. That internal voice isn't giving you objective facts. It's telling you a story your brain has created to maintain the status quo and avoid the discomfort of trying something new. This is the certainty trap in action. Your brain creates a narrative, and then it only looks for evidence that confirms it. This is called confirmation bias. If you believe you can't succeed, you'll subconsciously filter out all the evidence of people just like you who've succeeded. Your brain makes those success stories invisible because they contradict the certainty it has established. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When we're stuck in these repetitive thought loops, we often activate a part of the brain called the default mode network, or DMN. The DMN is active when we're ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. When we feel stressed or stuck, the DMN can become overactive, trapping us in our own heads and reinforcing our negative stories. It's like digging a deeper and deeper rut in a road until you can't see over the edge. You are quite literally stuck in your own mind. Let's look at Mark, who works in accounting but has always dreamed of being a chef. The certainty trap has him cornered. His inner monologue, which he thinks is just pure logic, sounds like this. I'm 35. It's too late for culinary school. I'd be starting at the bottom for minimum wage and I have a mortgage. It's just not realistic. Mark believes he's being pragmatic. But what he's really doing is building a case to support his existing belief that he's stuck. His brain has defined his current job as safe and the chef dream as dangerous. So it highlights every obstacle. He doesn't Google part-time culinary programs or look up stories of people who change careers later in life. Why? Because his brain has already decided the answer is no. He's living in a psychological prison where the bars are made from the illusion of his own certainty. The consequence is devastating. It's not just that we don't achieve our goals, it's that we don't even let ourselves try. We live smaller lives than we're capable of, not because of external limits, but because of the internal ones we mistake for reality. So, you've started to question your certainty. But then you run into the second blind spot, the fog of inaction. This is that thick, heavy feeling of paralysis. You know what you need to do, write the email, go to the gym, but an invisible force holds you in place. It feels like trying to run through mud. This isn't laziness, it's a powerful physiological response. Psychologists sometimes describe this as high cognitive friction, where every mental step feels like pushing a boulder uphill. What's happening is that your brain's ancient survival system is being triggered by modern problems. The part of your brain responsible is a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The amygdala is your internal smoke detector. When it senses a threat, it sounds the alarm, triggering a fight, flight, or freeze response. The tricky part is, while the amygdala's threat detection is more nuanced than we used to think, it can still react to an overwhelming project with the same ancient alarm system once used for physical threats. So what triggers this in our modern lives? Two of the biggest culprits are perfectionism and task ambiguity. Let's start with perfectionism. A perfectionist looks at a task like writing a report, and their brain doesn't just see write a report. It sees write the perfect report that will impress everyone and validate my entire existence. That impossibly high standard makes the task seem terrifying. Your amygdala registers this as a major threat of failure and judgment. In response, it floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol.
This is where the freeze response comes in. High levels of cortisol can impair the function of your prefrontal cortex, the logical planning part of your brain.
So, at the exact moment you need clear thinking to get started, your brain's own survival mechanism is working against you. You freeze. The second trigger is task ambiguity. This happens when a task is so big or vague that your brain doesn't know where to start. Think of goals like get healthy or clean the house. These aren't tasks, they're abstract projects. Faced with that vagueness, your brain can't create a clear action plan, and the amygdala again sounds the alarm. Doing nothing feels safer than doing the wrong thing. The result is the same. You're stuck, staring at the problem, feeling completely overwhelmed. Let's imagine Sarah looking at her messy garage. Her goal, organize the garage. As she stands there, her mind races. I have to sort all those boxes. I need to buy shelves. Where does the junk go? This will take all weekend. I don't even know where to begin. This is a perfect storm for the fog of inaction. The goal is ambiguous, and her perfectionism is whispering that it has to be done perfectly. Her amygdala perceives a massive threat. Cortisol floods her system. Her prefrontal cortex function is disrupted, and a wave of anxiety washes over her. Her body is physically in a freeze state. So she says, I'll deal with this later, walks back inside and scrolls through her phone.
This is procrastination, but it's critical to understand that this isn't a moral failing.
While many factors can contribute, procrastination is often an emotional regulation problem, not just a time management one. Sarah isn't lazy. Her nervous system is responding to a perceived threat by freezing and avoiding it. The terrifying part is the cycle it creates. The more you put off a task, the bigger it seems. The bigger it seems, the stronger your fear response. The stronger your fear, the more you procrastinate. This cycle can trap people for years, leading to chronic stress and shame. You start to believe you're just lazy, when really your brain is stuck in a physiological loop of fear and avoidance. Okay, we've covered the certainty trap and the fog of inaction. But there's one more blind spot that can sabotage you even after you start. It's the mismanaged reward system. This is all about how we accidentally train our brains to hate the very work that leads to our goals. We do this by misunderstanding the chemical that governs motivation, dopamine. Thanks to neuroscientists like Stanford's Andrew Huberman, we have a much clearer picture of how dopamine works. A big misconception is that dopamine is just the pleasure molecule. While it is involved in the feeling of pleasure, a primary role is driving motivation, craving, and the pursuit of goals. Think of it as the molecule of more. It's what tells your brain you're on the right path. We all have a baseline level of dopamine. Certain activities cause it to spike, but after a big peak, your levels can temporarily drop below your original baseline before returning to normal. The higher the peak, the deeper the potential trough. If you constantly chase huge, easy dopamine spikes from social media, junk food, video games, you can, over time, lower your baseline level, making you feel less motivated in general. How does this keep us stuck? We apply this faulty logic to our goals. We set up a system where the work is pain and the only reward comes at the very end. We tell ourselves, I just have to suffer through this project, then I can relax. Or, I'll force myself to go to the gym, then I can have a brownie. When you do this, you're teaching your brain to associate the effort itself with pain. You're divorcing the action from the reward. So your brain learns to resist the action because it provides no intrinsic satisfaction. This is the opposite of what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. People with a growth mindset have learned to attach dopamine to the effort itself. For them, the feeling of being challenged, the frustration of solving a problem, the focus required to learn, that is rewarding. They get small releases of dopamine throughout the process, which keeps them motivated. Think about getting a child to eat broccoli. The mismanaged reward approach is eat your broccoli and you can have cake. This teaches the child that broccoli is the chore you endure to get to the good stuff. Now imagine a growth mindset approach. Let's see how these little green trees help our muscles grow. Here, you're trying to make the act of eating broccoli itself interesting. We do the first version to ourselves all the time. We treat our most important goals like broccoli we have to choke down to get cake. Is it any wonder we feel unmotivated? A real-world example is the student who crams for an exam. Their only goal is the grade. The process of learning is a torturous chore. After the exam, they get a brief spike of relief, followed by a crash, and they retain very little. Their brain was trained to see the knowledge itself as just an obstacle. Compare that to a student who's genuinely curious. They find satisfaction in understanding a complex idea. The grade is a goal, but the main reward is the process of learning. They can study for hours and feel energized, not drained, because their reward system is working with them. The consequence of a mismanaged reward system is burnout and apathy. You look at your goals and just feel dread because you've successfully conditioned your brain to resist the path to your own success. So, we have 3 locks: the certainty trap, the fog of inaction, and the mismanaged reward system. Together, they feel like an impenetrable wall. But there's one key that works on all 3. This technique is rooted in well-established principles from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and concepts from neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. Though it's worth noting CBT has a much broader scientific evidence base. It works by rewiring the very thought patterns that create the stuck feeling. I call it what-if reframe. It's not about forcing positivity. It's about gently creating a crack in the wall of your negative assumptions, just wide enough for a new possibility to shine through. It's a simple 3-step process. Catch the lock, turn the key, and open the door. This is just about awareness. The next time you feel stuck or overwhelmed, pause. Don't judge yourself. Just notice the thought. It might be, this is impossible. I'm too tired, or just that heavy feeling of, oh, that thought is the lock. Just by noticing it, you create distance. You are not the thought, you are the one observing the thought. Instead of fighting the negative thought, you ask a simple open-ended question that starts with, what if? This question is the key. Its purpose is to pivot your brain from a certainty of failure toward a state of possibility. Here's how to tailor the question to each blind spot. To unlock the certainty trap, Ask, what if there's another way of looking at this? Or what if my assumption isn't 100% true? To unlock fog of inaction, ask, what if I only had to do the very next smallest physical action? This shrinks the perceived threat to something manageable. To unlock the mismanaged reward system, ask, what if I could find one small part of this process to be curious about? Or what if I focus on the feeling of making tiny progress? A mental shift is powerful, but for your brain to truly rewire, it needs to connect to a physical action. This is how you trigger neuroplasticity. The final step is to take one tiny action based on your what-if question. For certainty, what if my assumption that I need a business degree is wrong? What if I could find one person who started with nothing? For inaction, what if I didn't have to build a whole business today? What if I just had to spend 5 minutes brainstorming names? For reward, what if I could get curious about what it feels like to create something new just for a few minutes? You pick one and do it. You open a notebook and spend 5 minutes, no more, writing down a few business names. That's it. You just opened the door. What you've done is profound. You've taken an overwhelming threat, start a business, and shrunk it to a non-threatening action, write for 5 minutes. You've shifted your brain from a closed loop of I can't to an open question of what if. You've started to rewire your brain for progress. The more you use this, the more automatic it becomes. The 3 psychological blind spots, the certainty trap, the fog of inaction, and the mismanaged reward system are not permanent walls. They are locked doors, and the what-if reframe is the master key. It teaches you to notice your limiting thoughts, question them with curiosity, and take one small action to prove a new possibility to yourself. Every time you do this, you weaken the old restrictive neural pathways and strengthen new expansive ones. That feeling of being stuck is not a life sentence. It's a signal. It's a signal to pause, get curious, and ask yourself a new question. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. It really helps the channel and lets me know you want more content like this. The What If Reframe is the perfect tool to get you started. But turning that start into momentum requires consistent habits. That's why I've made another video right over here on the neuroscience of building habits that actually stick. It's the perfect next step. Click on it, and let's keep moving forward together. Thank you for watching.